Hello, YouTube. Welcome back again to Old Guy Plays 1969 for some more XCOM 2 Season 2 Part 7. And yeah, I'm going to apologize now in case anybody in Part 6 put comments in the video and said they wanted a soldier. We won't be getting to them in this video. We'll have to wait to the next one. Why? Because I'm recording a couple back to back. As the last mission went so smoothly, I enjoyed it so much, I want to play the game a little bit more. So I decided to record another video. So let's pop into the old game. Yeah, the game. It's still paused from when we were playing before. And let's return to the game. And I want to have a look at some of the soldiers and maybe make some notes about them because we haven't really looked at their dossiers. And I want to make notes in case there's some soldiers in here that don't have a dossier.
The resistance has already seen a boost in their recruitment efforts after word of the commander's arrival got around. They've needed a leader just as much as we have, and now they'll be expecting us to hit the aliens where it hurts. Not that I'm worried. We've got plenty of people itching to take on Advent. Things are just starting to get interesting.
Yeah, that they are, Bradford. Okay, this is Metalhead. His nickname is Metal Mulf. And let's have a look. There's two ways you can look at the dossiers. I don't really know which one you think might be better, but if I go into XCOM screening, where is it? Armory? Yeah, XCOM screening. I can have a look at all the soldiers this way. Bring the guy up. I can look at all of his abilities he currently has, or we can flip over here and get his dossier. I don't know if this is an easier way to read them or not, but we'll go ahead this way. So he was found in a pod of twisted metal by the skirmishers and put back together. They used it as a statue until it was struck by lightning and got activated. The unit escaped from Proxima when Advent attacked. Now they will fight Advent here. Okay, that's the story to Metal Mouth. We like him. He's a Proxian soldier. And who's next on our list here? This is Jackson Stiggs. So I'm just going to make a little note in my book about Stiggs because, you see, the thing is when I watched Chris Odd do this, and he went through the dossiers, he read them, and then we never heard another damn thing about the soldiers for a while after that. So I'm going to try to make some notes about these dossiers, and we're going to try to comment on them a little bit more as we're playing, and try to bring a little bit more, I don't know, role play, life to these guys as we're playing through. Now, it might make the video a little bit longer, but I want people to maybe, while they're watching, to get a little invested in some of these soldiers. Because if we lose them, we don't want to just say, "Dah, I lost a gunner." It's like, no, you might have lost Stiggs, Hopper. And why is it important? Well, anyway, honestly, a miracle. Hopper is still kicking. XCOM operatives had found him half buried in the remains of a high school while out on patrol. Normally, operatives wouldn't bring a civilian back to the base, but not only was the teacher in bad shape, there was nothing but war-torn cities a mile out in the location thanks to UFO attacks. He wouldn't make it out on his own. So the doctors quickly got him stabilized as soon as the Sky Ranger arrived back at base, but not without having to remove one of his eyes due to shrapnel and rubble. Okay, so we can make note of that. He's lost an eye, and you can see that with the patch, right? He lost an eye. Yeah, too bad. After coming to, okay, I think that's what they mean. After coming to kind of Jackson, which is his first name, was panicked. He began to beg, asking where his students were. When we broke the news to him out of the school and that he was the only survivor, he went silent. He sat in the med bay nearly a week and barely ate. Suddenly one day he was up, demanding for commanding officer. Central himself came to speak with him, and the teacher demanded he'd be allowed to fight. Of course, he was told no. Right, so Stiggs is a teacher. Okay, and however, it didn't take long for Hopper's wish to come true. The same day Earth announced it surrendered, the base was attacked by alien forces. He had no choice but to pick up a rifle. He fought alongside operatives as they desperately tried fending off the assault. Eventually, they were forced to escape and went into hiding. Years passed as Hopper and the remnants of XCOM watched their home change. Miracle breakthrough in the scientists, life expectancy skyrocket all across the globe. It seemed all was fine, but the survivors in Hopper knew the dark secrets of their new rulers. XCOM refused to let the world be clueless of the aliens' intentions, and Hopper refused to allow them to get away with the slaughtering of his students and fellow staff in cold blood. In his mind, I would add that in there, the war was still on. Now he's here. Bradford figured finally we'd let him see some action on the field. He's already scrounged together and customized some equipment and has acquired quite a stylish beret. I'm not sure how you really pronounce that. Seems he's going to fit in just fine with the rest of our operatives. Well, welcome to the team, Stiggs, the teacher who lost an eye. And it's nice to know that he fights for his lost students. All right, who's next on the list? So this is Sunset. And Sunset, what's his story? Looks like he's Canadian. Woohoo! And he was born in '93. Military background, pre-invasion, well regarded by his peers, multiple active warrants, and he can cook. Well, that's good to know. He's a cook. So I wonder if maybe we should have changed his name to Cookies or Cookie. This isn't about revenge or reclaiming what we lost. It's about ensuring that our children are free and choose their own future. Advent interrogation logs. No, I'm telling you, it went clean through his chest. I thought he was dead. He just pulled out his sidearm and kept fighting. From an eyewitness account during an Advent raid. Hey, he's a pretty funny guy, and you should get to know him. To tell you about the bull and the maze with the string. Honestly, I don't know where he comes up with this stuff. From a younger resistance. This is from a younger resistance fighter that asked about him. All right, so he's a funny guy. He's a joker. This fella. He likes to tell jokes and things. Loud waves crash ashore. Rushing blue overcomes all. The coast abides. Overheard reciting during a memorial. Okay, so this is just like some rumor mill on this guy. So we don't really know lots about Sunset Bayward, but we'll try to keep that in mind as we play with him. Who's next? This is Colix Penton, Amy Colix Penton, and Colix was on Chris Odd's squad. I know that for a fact, and I think she was in the opening fight with Season 9. So after XCOM thwarted the first alien invasion, her brother, Support Major Will Penton, was held in high regard by the commander, along with the rest of XCOM soldiers. Being his sister gave her unique opportunities and granted her a specialized role within the UK government. The second alien invasion came quickly without warning, being quicker and deadlier than the first. Her brother and husband were caught unawares and were killed immediately. Oh, not good. Being part of the government, she was gathered up by the aliens and imprisoned. There, she was tortured for resisting them and experimented on. This left her changed both mentally and physically. Ugh. She was able to escape and join the skirmishers in order to inadvertently help XCOM and hurt the aliens who had taken her own family away from her. Amy decided to use her brother's old call sign, Colix, as a homage to her late brothers. Oh, well, that's a touching story, that one, right? So, had brothers, and they were lost in the war. And she stayed with the skirmishers. Probably learned their ways and their skills. And she used to work for the UK government. It's an interesting backstory. I like that one. Let's go to the next character. This is Dacnus Nightfather. Or they pronounce him Decanus, maybe. Maybe it's pronounced Dacnus. Dacnus Nightfather? I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But this is the special character that Chris Odd put in his campaign for Season 9. He's part of the Rescue Resistance Soldier lead. And let's see. Memories of his youth do not exist. In the place, Jaco, the wanderer who searched for peace in the world for himself because of his failures or past inadequacies, was guard for XCOM. An orphan found, the first several taken under the wing of Jackness be my name. Future chief of Haven Guard. Stories, legends of both myth and truth inspired me, so I became father of knights to the mother of the den. One of my brothers and sisters, where life did not truly thrive but was managed all the same. My father, wander once more, established an order of blue, preparing the scattered people for the arrival of one true lord, commander of XCOM, you. But the impostor men approached our haven home, raised flames and cinders. Our weapons were unsheathed but useless, and nevertheless we fell. First there was darkness, then life, but only my own. For several of those I was sworn to protect were lost forever. Forever the oppressor shall. The path of knighthood is not one of a saint, it's of a warrior. Without purpose, companionship, we would be kin to the star vermin. So now I vow my purpose anew. Okay, so it's kind of like a riddle and a rhyme to him. I march with you as Nightfather now and forever. Like my father before me. No, my siblings were meant to. My flock is not old. What it was a migration. Too, but a part of life. I dedicate to you humanity. My eyes, my ears, my bones, my shoulders, my heart, my fate, and my very soul. Okay, so that's why he's known as Nightfather. Because he's a protector. And I'll just refer to him as Protector of Havens. So that's essentially what he became, right? But yeah, I like that backstory too. Cool. Who's next? So this is Maki Kasha Sato. So, Casa. I had so much trouble pronouncing her name. We know that as a child she went missing and was found later at an Exalt camp in stasis. She has no memory of that time there. We hope she's fully committed to the XCOM project, but keep an eye on her in case she becomes activated in some way. But no implants have been found. Okay. So she is Exalt. Next. This is Bookie. I can't remember if we've had Bookie out on a mission yet. I'm not sure, but he's been on the adventure for 21 days. Yeah, I'm not seeing any, I don't know if this shows his kills or anything here on this screen. Anyway, I don't think it does. I remember taking Bookie out. I must have, because he's carrying a mag rifle. Okay, so what's your story, Bookie? We have, intel. The team's been able to determine that Alex Salvatore was a teenager at the time of the invasion. He lived in a small town in eastern Canada. For the most part of the war, he grew up in saw very little conflict. During the warning months of the war, and before the founding of the Advent administration, the aliens seemed to take an interest in the area and established a large subterranean base. Over the next few months, people started to go missing, and that only led to people beginning to investigate, which ultimately led to further disappearances. When asked about the events at the time, he responded with this: "My dad and my brother joined a group that was sweeping the woods where a few people had gone missing. There was a long pause, and his gaze seemed to shift far away. We found some tracks and footprints which we thought was one of the missing people, so we followed them up into the mountains. I need to drink coffee. Until a man in black stopped us. The man said that he worked for the government and that we should turn back. I never spoke of this, but my dad was having none of it, and there was a long pause before Alex let out another deep sigh and continued. There was a burst of plasma that came from the tree line. You don't have to. The words are cut off. Alex held up a hand. I know. They took my brother prisoner in their base. And we were underground for weeks and days, and we were kept in a cell with some of the other missing people. Many of them were taken away, probably to be experimented on, and I never saw my brother again. So he's got a missing brother. And there was a long, uncomfortable pause. Alex spoke again. We eventually rescued, of course. We were eventually rescued, of course, but not sure if XCOM or the military. But we were ushered to safety and was reunited with my mom. Things were different after that. Neither of us really recovered of the shock of it for years. Truth be told, I think she just lost the will to go on a lot of days. A few months later, the aliens controlled the planet. Little is known of Alex's history, though, of after that time, but the intel on the team was able to piece together from various reports from the surrounding region that he had traveled quite a bit. Spending a lot of time in abandoned cities as Advent started to put up their cities, it's believed that he spent some time with the Reapers and picked up a few things from them before setting off on his own, eventually settling in with the skirmishers, many of which are viewed as kindred spirits. He often served as a liaison for them when negotiating with other resistance groups. After being offered a position in XCOM, Alex joined after a day of consideration. Only the pretense would be he'd have room for a couple large bags of books that he brought along with him. Okay, hence the name Bookies. So he likes books, so. Bradford's note. This one seems mostly to keep to himself, but capable enough. The medical team has concerns about his mental health, but nothing overly concerning. Well, I guess I would too, but I got to keep an eye for the name Salvatore and Alex, because I really don't know what the game's going to pull from the XL pool or the Exalt pool. And sometimes I've found characters that are on the Exalt squad, which just kind of motivates me to try to liberate them even more if I find them. Now, when I watched Merp's playthrough, he just shot Exalt and then executed them. I think he just overall hated them. He didn't want them on his team. All right, so who's this? We've got Big Red Swanson, and let's have a look at what Big Red's story is here. Born to a military family, Eric tried everything he could to stay away from army life, instead pursuing a dream of life as a successful actor and comic. He eventually fell back on a career as a reserve soldier, just to make the ends meet. But after surviving a terror attack from the initial invasion, he took up arms and joined the resistance, turning his public speaking and weekend warrior skills into practical training and morale boosting for his fellow freedom fighters. He joins XCOM in the hopes of finding scattered remnants of his family. Both of his younger siblings have vanished, and visits to Advent gene clinics in recent weeks have vanished. Yeah, okay, they've vanished after visits to gene clinics in weeks. So he has a missing family, and so we'll keep that in mind with him. And yeah, not a lot on him, but welcome to the team, Big Red. Who's next here? We have Matt Pale Rider. So Pale Rider, what is your story, buddy? December 12th, 2020. Matt was born into a loving family living off the southeast end of England. Growing up near the woods, he learned to hunt and took great pleasure in the thrill of tracking and eventually killing his prey. His life was almost idyllic until the aliens came. The UFO, blown off course, crashed outside his house, kicking up debris all around. The doors of his house were blown open and aliens swarmed in, killing his mother and father almost instantly. Among the aliens was a chrysalid who devoured his brother as well. Ugh, how awful. When it crawled up the stairs and slashed Matt, taking out his eye, leaving him scared. Okay. So I bet you he hates chrysalids. I would say. I'd make me hate them after that. He quickly grabbed his lucky knife and jumped out his window and fled into the woods. But his wound was infected, so he had to cut out the scar tissue before it spread, causing immense pain, and he went, I'm guessing, he said, well, no, causing agonizing pain, yeah. Reading into it and not reading it. Unfortunately, he survived a few days later and went back to the ruins of his house and harvested the claws of the beast he killed, which he took as a trophy. Many of firsts to come. He spent the next few years hunting aliens, thinking he was the only one that would, until he found XCOM and he agreed to join them. Bring Advent down no matter how many bodies he'd have to leave in his wake. Alright, so he's got a hate on for Advent, and he also hates chrysalids, so we'll have to remember that little fact, because we will encounter those at some point. Sin Zenith Darrell. Now, I think he also showed up on Odd's playthrough. Don't quote me on that, but I think he did. Zenith, but I think he died in that campaign. I don't think he made it, so we'll have to see what we're going to end up with here. He's only got 4 health, so he's going to need a health boost at some point. Yeah. So Zenith. I don't know if we'll just maybe start calling him Zen or what. Well, man's origins aren't completely known by records available. The man whom we would take to calling Sin, or the Zenith, burst into the public eye within the last 5 years with Advent City Centers. While not always an individual or anti-Advent persuasion, he really seems to take issue with clashing with our units of Advent patrols as they attempted to disrupt remnant culture centers as speakeries, I guess. After a particular altercation, he turned a Lancer's weapon on him and his entire unit. He was marked as a executable target and began making a name for himself as a guerrilla fighter in the heart of Advent control. At this time, XCOM extended an olive branch and brought the man on board. As a soldier, he's proven to be an incredible preference to melee and bladed weapons over firearms, although he holds no qualms engaging Advent with an issued shotgun. Initial reviews and physical tests have revealed little about him, and his soft glow in his eyes appear to be the result of some form of genetic therapy. However, when inquired about the incomplete records where he was born or raised, he simply dismissed the question and provided his response. Few who rise up to fight the good fight ever came from a happy place. So let's leave it at that. After further deliberation and discussion with leadership, the matter was dismissed as a concern. Most importantly, Sin has brought morale boost upon mingling with his fellow crew and soldiers. Although suave, charming, and lighthearted, he appears to raise the spirits of those he meets. As a result, his behavior has been one that field coordinators have dubbed the title the Zenith, and a high point of everyone's day. So he's uplifting, as I guess we'd say, to the team. Who's next? All right. Oh, big right up here from Mishka. Mishka Opera. So her nickname is Opera. So does she like the opera? I don't know. Let's find out. So she grew up among the abandoned villages and gardens on, can't pronounce that, but I'll leave it there for you to read. So she was used to people leaving and not returning. Her grandparents told her stories about guerrillas who fought against the Sultan in the 1950s and 60s until they were driven off the mountain by the British Army. More people left for the capital. Muscat, the Sultan's son, took over and and brought education and jobs, but something didn't add up. People didn't come back ever. Grandfather said her parents were working hard. Baba worked at the famous Royal Opera House where he hoped to sing, but instead ushered people to their seats. Okay. Udemy, I'm not sure who that is, drove her bright pink lady's taxi. They left when Miska was young and she couldn't remember them. She only knew them from their stories and a photo on a wall. Two strangers standing beside a shiny taxi outside a beautiful opera house. Miska was now older. I jumped too far. And she wanted to see them. She had been practicing her singing every day. Maybe one day she could sing in the opera house and impress them. Okay, so she's a singer. Guess she loves music too, I guess. One day exploring an abandoned village, the edge of the deep ravine. Okay, I'm going to grab another drink here. She spotted a flash of unexpected color. Behind a cracked door of the garage was a pink lady's taxi. It couldn't be. She was working in Muscat, but why was it here? An irrational impulse took over her as she slipped behind the wheel. Iska spent her whole life on the mountain, waiting, dreaming, and exploring, and surprisingly, the petrol tank was full, and the old reliable taxi started at the first attempt after 20 years of abandonment. Iska took off down the steep winding road without another thought. Failing brakes barely saved her when the road veered off the cliff edges. Grandfather said that the army checkpoint at the bottom of the mountain would stop anyone without a permit from entering or leaving. But it looked abandoned too, except for the hooded figure who stepped in the middle of the road with a raised hand. Okay, now that Miska met the people who guarded the mountain and sent patrols to the old city to the ruined opera house. So, yeah, so it looks like the Reapers took over that area from Advent and were able to hold it. So that's why she's familiar with the Reapers and why she's trained as a Reaper. Interesting. Crap. I didn't mean to back out of that. Start back at the beginning. Hopefully this will scroll through all the soldiers again like I did the first time. Don't throw them out of order. Seems to be working good so far. Alright, and the last guy we just picked up was Giga. I can't remember if Giga's got a story or not. There are concerns in the resistance regarding speculation that several recruits have actually been escapees from... Okay, yeah, that's just a standard bio for XCOM. So if you'd like to take over Giga, you can certainly do that, and maybe we'll rewrite his story. But we're going to keep him in. It's going to be his name, unless, of course, I get a soldier submission for a different guy, and we'll swap Giga out with somebody else. Soy. So for Giga, I'm just going to say not much is known. And for Soy, she also has standard XCOM bio. Judgment Day. Former soldier of the United States Army Rick Renoa was part of an underground group of veterans labeled by Advent as a terrorist group. AA raid on small headquarters in the Rocky Mountains left Rick the only survivor. Despite his advanced age, he began to search for another operation and joined the fight against Advent. Okay, so just straightforward. He just wants revenge on the aliens. So Judgment Day. I like his nickname, Judgment Day. He's just a straight up soldier, this guy. Who's next? This was Charles Biohazard Kane. Okay, so Biohazard. And he's already got the biohazard kind of gear on already. Let's see. First class petty officer Charles Payne was one of Advent's many prisoners of war, being the captive of Project Wildfire. As I walked into my lab and past jars of alien in origin chemical compound, I noticed an adverse reaction. How Payne became a prisoner of war comes down to his survival of the first few hours of the invasion, when the military and civilian locations were attacked, subsequently and destroyed. As Payne's base of operations, he survived through his commanding officer, even though he was killed in action. This led Payne to receive first-class petty officer rank, field promotion in the line of duty. And while he and other soldiers were defending the base of operations, every soldier alive even fought the base to the bitter end. Thanks to the work of a resistance contact, I was able to fill out the full scope of Payne's 20-year history prior to 2030's Unification Day. This is not to say that Payne lied to me with an answer, but his only answer to post-invasion situations was simply, I survived. And now what occurred after the base's downfall and his capture by Advent, this was when he was taken into Advent facility and processed for experimentation. Being the subject of alien experimentation and imprisonment, now subject on that experimentation procedures he's unwillingly underwent, Payne was sentenced to 2 years of chemical compound testing in order to test new versions of old war alien chemicals, specifically in lieu of gas sprayers. On the ceiling containment cells each subject was placed in. These containment cells were a modern size and rectangular construction, allowing for the chemicals to propagate for extended periods. People within. Ugh. Terrible. Specifically to recreate the once-in-a-lifetime curse known as the Lost. Okay. Now the project was a failure, but Payne escaped before the failure occurred. Using an injured scientist's keycard, a dead Advent's officer's keycard, and a pistol, taught him about how the security of Advent facility was configured at that time. I fully evaluated this candidate, in which on the overall evaluation, physically he's subject to experimentation for you, hasn't lost any weight, presumably calming down his loyalty daily routine taught him by U.S. military. Otherwise, experimentation did give him a small amount of skin resistance to biohazard chemicals, as shown in my video below. Okay, so I guess like his name says, he was bio-experimented on. So I would think he would hate labs if we find them. And experiment areas. All right. Like anybody else on my roster? Okay, we have Raccoon. We have our Templar. Raccoon story. During the first invasion, Samantha was a zookeeper. After completing her zoology studies, she traveled the world as an animal researcher, always finding that she had a particular affinity for the creatures she encountered. Okay, let's make note of that. Zookeeper. When the aliens first attacked, Samantha was aided in her escape by a family of raccoons that she cared for. Wow. They didn't speak to her, not in the psionic sense, but what she found was able to key in on their minds and allow their instincts to aid her decision-making. With their help, she was able to guide a panicked group of humans to safety through the zoo's underground maintenance tunnels. Now, years later, with the help of the Templars, Samantha's psionic abilities have blossomed, and she fights Advent with the same cunning and resourcefulness of a family of raccoons that unknowingly saved her life all those years ago. Well, look at that. That's kind of a neat idea. I like whoever designed that. That's kind of neat. All right, so I'm going to put she loves raccoons, and that she understands him. Nice. Anybody left? Yep. Little man. Rex, little man. Little man. It's a little man story. Growing one of the Advent centers only as a child of government official, Rex had the classic rich kid upbringing, minus uncaring parents. Rex loved and admired both of his parents, especially his father. As a little boy, he would be his father's shadow, taking phone calls, carrying around a tiny briefcase, and just being a little man. Okay, so we know where the nickname comes from then. Sadly, Rex's life turned for the worse when his mother began to experience several medical issues such as extreme fatigue, dizziness, muscle spasms, and months passed before she received the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, MS. There was little discussion on what to do. The gene therapy clinics were curing the previously incurable, and it seemed to his mother's best bet. Rex had no idea that he would be seeing his mother for the last time after dropping her off at the clinic. Visitation was denied, and he and his father received daily updates, then weekly, then monthly. Eventually, the updates stopped altogether, as she had been transferred to a different facility out of the country. Rex did not take this news well, and pushed his father to get more information, losing his connections. Classified was all his father got. So Rex decided to do his own investigation, discovering hundreds of missing persons reports and related to gene therapy clinics. He brought the evidence to his father, but rather than believe him, his father labeled him a terrorist and betrayed him to the peacekeepers. Oh my God. His father was an asshole. Wow. Turned out to be, anyway. And yet, this guy idolized him. That must have hurt. That must have been a crushing blow. While in transit after his arrest, he and the rest of his fellow terrorists were freed by the Resistance hijacking vehicle. They were reassured his theories gave him a place to stay and sparked within him the determination to fight for his planet and to fight for his mother. Yeah, noble cause. Welcome to the team, little man. And who we got? We got Kippa. I don't think we've had Kippa out on a mission yet either. Haven't had, well, they're moderately wounded right now. And they're an oddsman. Born and raised in Iran. Aya is something of a wild card with no formal training to speak of. He's just maybe the kind of recruit that XCOM needs. So he has a generic background. So this guy could be replaceable for, somebody's soldier as well. I wouldn't mind swapping them out. And the other reason why I'm making the notes on these guys too, because if I want to, when I'm done with this campaign, I can go back in and either eliminate these characters out of the pool because they really don't have a background or a purpose. And of course, I will be taking them out if they die, right? Because I like to maintain a pool of living characters for each campaign. And eventually I'd like to replace those with people that watch the videos. So who do we got left here? So this is Red Rook. I don't think we have covered her bio yet. So Red Rook, what can we find out about you? She's another Canadian. Yay! And she joined the armed forces of the country, of her country at the age of 18, and quickly proved herself as an effective soldier and officer. Soon being advanced to JTF2, her country's Special Forces organization, taking part in, it says cover, but I think they mean covert missions all over the world. When the aliens came, she helped the world in fighting back as XCOM took the lead, but she quickly found herself betrayed by her superiors as XCOM was defeated and the world's government folded in the face of the invaders, merging to become the Advent Coalition. All right, so she got mad at the government group for giving up and signing the peace accords. Vowing to never give up the fight, Rosalind vanished into the underground and soon joined the resistant networks, traveling the world and training resistance fighters in every camp she passed through. She had a knack for passing along her skills as guerrilla warfare and combat, and left cadres of highly skilled rebels in across the world. I guess that's what they mean, cadres or padres. Eventually, word reached XCOM had resurfaced, and she was taking the lead in the fight against the aliens, organizing a resistance network into a global organization and reaching out to factions like the Reapers, Templars, and Skirmishers, providing a united front. The next time she was at camp, she reached out, offering her skills to the most anti-Advent organization there was, which is us, XCOM. So we are glad to have Red Rook on our team. So I'm going to mark her down that she's a trainer of soldiers. So I'll try to remember that, because when I go take people to upgrade their combat intelligence and stuff, if I need an extra person, I really should be picking her, because she's the one that can get that done. So that's what I mean about adding like a little bit more to the characters themselves, try to play them based off of how they've been built. Or I know Odd told people when they made their soldiers to try to keep them a little vague in that area, like don't say, oh, this guy uses a sniper rifle, because I may not be able to get you one of those, right? Because of amalgamation. Okay, so Suave. Man, I got a pretty big roster. Maybe this whole video is just going to be talking about my starting base of characters. We may not get to that other mission. All right, so who's this? Michael Spooner, Suave, Barnaby. Yep, I know what you're thinking, Commander. Man with a fake name. Dresses clean and acts with a lot of bravado. This guy must be legit, right? Well, no, far from it. You see, we found John Barnaby, or Michael Spooner, based on the database we found about him, drunk in a bar just on the outskirts of Resistance Cell, boasting of how he'd be triumphant hero of XCOM that will save humanity against the Elders. I know my fair share of fools and arrogant naysayers, and I definitely knew he was a prime example of one. Before I could leave the bar, though, he managed to eye me and approach me saying he wanted to join our fight and that he comes from a wealthy family and is willing to fund our efforts. I asked him if he had any combat spirit, and he answered yes, but based on the way the spy flicks he watched as a kid, and no stranger to sending out fresh recruits to fight and die on the front lines, it's a different thing to send out a delusional people that think that whatever they see in the movie translates to real life. But we needed the money, and his family was actually one of the things he was telling the truth about. I tried to show him the combat gear that he was wearing and said that all he needed was a fancy suit, 2 pistols, and a rifle. Grab another drink. He's like the last action hero. And I'm gonna make note of that. And that he learned to fight watching movies. That's funny. He learned to fight watching movies. All right, so what was the report on him? If worse comes to worse and he doesn't become the sole reason for an operation, and having an operation go to hand, then I would not hesitate to kick him off of the Avenger. To be honest with you, Commander, I strangely harbor some high hopes for him, and there's one thing that this job has taught me, is that the ones who seem the least promising always end up surprising me the most, so I'm eager to see how he turns up in the long run. Yeah, me too. Be interesting to see him develop maybe into something. Okay, so our next soldier here, which is Emerald. Right now, she's currently out on infiltration. Actually, this is a good way to be able to read the soldiers' dossiers, because the other way you can't read them when they're out on a mission. This way you can. So that's kind of good. Ooh, she's got a big bio. Anna Almeida. Almeida. Anna Almeida. I think that's how you pronounce that. God. Was born a child of a pair of environmental scientists and activists, determined to save what remained of the rainforest and their beloved home of Costa Rica. Feeling a deep spiritual connection to the land they were trying to preserve, they often remarked to young Anna that her striking emerald green eyes were a sign of hope bestowed upon them by the rainforest, proving that their chosen mission was the righteous one. Anna was not nearly as idealistic as her parents, though, and even though as a young girl she understood that their mission was doomed to fail as they endured setback after setback and heartache after heartbreak. But it wasn't until the coming of the aliens that Anna was forced to let them go entirely and make her own way. Her parents viewed the Elders' promises of a newer, better existence for humanity with the kind of blind hope that truly the desperate can muster. As a result, they were among the first to sign up for the new experimental gene therapies, perhaps hoping for a way to cure their own growing despair, and they fully intended their daughter to join them. Perhaps her eyes really had been gifted with some deeper awareness, but Anna, still half a child, knew instinctively that she entered that gene therapy clinic, she would never leave. She also knew that she couldn't force her parents not to go. Half blinded by her own tears, she ran away the night before, and her family was due to report to the clinic, and she never knew what happened to her parents, or they never tried to find her either, and only that she never saw them again. Interesting. So she had missing parents. She has the deep green eyes. And she has some insight. So I don't know, maybe if later on in the campaign, if we are able to unlock psionics and stuff, she would be a good psi candidate. She does got 1 point of psionics already, so maybe with some grading we can upgrade her and get her to maybe possibly use a psi-amp, because it does sound like something that she could do. Make note here of possible psi agent. All right. Wow, we still got lots of people left on the roster here. I didn't realize I had that many. I think you do start off with like, what, 30 or something? So Lefty Ryan, Lou Lefty Ryan. So what's your story? The story there, Lefty? You missing your left arm? No. Yes, you are. You are missing your left arm. Look at that. Okay. I wonder if that's got something to do with it. Lou lived quite the normal life. Decent job, few friends, loved ones were alive and well. Something just seemed off, though, like his life lacked something. Deep down, Lou wanted to become an action movie star, not for the rewards or the accolades, but to live the life of a hero, while staying in one place, a wish that would come true in an odd way. During his lunch break at the local Advent Burger, XCOM and Advent themselves would be trading fire, while citizens were either fleeing or hunkering down. Lou was watching, and his eyes lit up with excitement. An Advent officer or soldier would be taking cover near the front entrance. Though he would quickly be shot down, his rifle falling nearby. He didn't know what was brought upon him, but something in him snapped, as if a small voice in the back of his head said, "This is your chance." He heard the familiar theme of an old movie he used to watch, and with rapid breaths he began to scramble to the mag weapon and grabbed hold of it. Yelling at XCOM for a few seconds, though he paused, they reminded him so much of the magic action movies they were badasses, rebels, obviously the good guys. With a frenzied scream, he turned the weapon towards an Advent trooper and opened fire. It went down about as well as one could expect a man with no training could accomplish. Missing nearly every single shot, though, that he fired, the trooper quickly returned on him with return fire. Lou's moment halted in sharp pain as his left shoulder followed by a sudden heft of the rifle he held. Heeling over to see what looked to be his arm on the ground. He didn't even have time to react before he blacked out. His last words were, "Oh, shh." When he came to, he wondered if Advent just discovered him and passed out under an Advent burger table. Seeing that he was surrounded by medical equipment, perhaps that little losing his arm was a dream. I think this means perhaps losing his arm. He thought maybe this was a dream. Here we go for the C. Let's see here. A sudden shift of balance. Seeing that he was surrounded by medical equipment. Come on, find your place there, dude. Free black. Okay. Okay. A sudden shift of balance to the left side of his body, however, confirmed that it wasn't a dream. His arm was really gone. Rather, a heavy cybernetic limb in its place. Oh, was all he could say. Oh, is right, an unfamiliar voice would reply. Lou soon glanced over to see a stern man sitting off to the side, a man nodding to him in greeting. Quite one hit you took there. I'm sure you never expected to go out for a burger and lose your arm in the process. Lou shrugged. At least I got my burger beforehand. Sure would have been hard to eat one of those with one arm. After some shared laughter, John Bradford introduced himself and gave Lou a quick briefing. Apparently, Lou was thought to be some sort of Advent citizen fighting back against the tyranny of the elders. Not a man of mid-mental breakdown firing a gun in an attempted ploy to be an action hero. Part of him wanted to tell the truth, but he decided to take that win, and he offered to join XCOM, faking it until he eventually makes it. Who knows? Someday, maybe he'll be the star of his own movie, or maybe he'll lose the other arm. I love that bio. It's so good. So I was going to mark him as thinks he is a movie star. Had no training. That is so cool. I love that bio. That's really brings some humanity to that guy. Okay, what can you say about Goonstone? She's a goon. Well, yeah. I guess maybe we could write more of her story if somebody wants to take over her character. I don't want to delete her because she is one of the content creators people from his pool. And he didn't have a bio, so I just gave her something basic. All right. Okay, so this is Abby. And Abby Vanjik. She had a good life once. Her parents both worked for Advent, her dad as a commander and her mom as a nurse in a hospital. At 17, she was in the Advent Youth Brigade, a young captain leading her own troop like her dad. She went to all the rallies, said all the right things, attended all summer camps. She wore the uniform with pride. Everything changed on her mother's birthday. She wanted to make something special for the occasion and decided to surprise her at the hospital and share a nice restaurant with her. Her mother wasn't in her office, but her access badge to the secured medical area was there. Oh well, that would be a real surprise. So I guess she decided to go in and surprise her mother. She took it and swiped it through the reader. One step in, she saw and she couldn't believe it. Tanks filled with people floating in some kind of green gel. Her vision became blurry and her head started to spin. Then everything went black. She woke in the hospital in a bed and her mother was holding her hand, whispering that everything would be fine. Abigail told her all the right things, but she didn't believe them anymore. Okay, maybe her mother told her all the right things, but she didn't believe them anymore. 2 weeks later, a man approached her in the mall, asked if she knew anything about the resistance. Abigail asked to hear more. That's the end of her bio. So, what can we say about her? She came from Advent Black Site. We know nothing after that. Well, Abby, if you get promoted well enough, you've kind of got yourself promoted to go on the black site mission. So I'm going to make note of that we want her on the black site mission. And why do we want her on the black site mission? Well, she's got experience with being in one before, and maybe she can tell us stuff about getting there. Or how the best way to fight the fight. Okay, so we're going to go to one of Deffy's characters, because I guess he's right into Star Trek. Oh, that's a cardinal sin. Star Wars. And most of the people from his pool were Star Trek characters. So this is Echo, Clone Trooper 1409. And we have no data on him at all, but if somebody wants to take him over, they certainly can. And we have the Traveler. Don't ask me to pronounce that man's first name, but Traveler. What's the scoop on Traveler? Born in the United Emirates. He was 7 when one of his father's brother in arms showed up at his door and announced his father's passing during the Contact War. Asked for his gun later that week and learned to shoot within the month. He's shown to be level-headed and easygoing in his free time and his desire to be useful to his friends. A special operative at heart, he has been in more countries now than you can count. Okay. Grab another drink. So Traveler is a covert ops specialist. And so we are going to send him on as many covert ops as we can because of that. Okay, Redtail Addison. I think this is going back to him because I think we already covered Redtail, didn't we? Just having a look at my notes here. I think we already covered him. Maybe not, because this didn't go back to the starting guy. That was Red Brook that we covered. Okay. Oh. Redtail. So yeah, this video is just going to be on the dossiers of people. I'm going to do another video of the next mission we're going to run. This is taking a little while to go through these. So Jack Addison grew up with the dream of flying for a living, just like his father had for a major airline. His dad owned his own plane and would often take Jack up to get a feeling for what it was like in the air. He immediately infatuated with it, being up high and soaring through the clouds and looking at the different towns they flew over. Unfortunately, though, for him, the invasion hit a month after he got his pilot's license. The attack was brutal and his hometown was leveled. He lost his friends and family, watching his home collapse and any dreams he had of one day working commercially as a pilot. He lost hope of escaping with his life and was able to grab his dad's keys and make his way to the local airport. He took the plane and made his way to an Air Force base that he did know of. They cleared him in due to the nature of the emergency. From that point, Jack moved from base to base. The military kept losing ground to the aliens, which forced them to relocate several times. He tried keeping his dad's plane safe, but that was ultimately lost as well. It went on like this for years, and he eventually enlisted with the Air Force. Although, sorry about that, folks, I had to scratch my face, I hit the mic. They refused him a pilot seat. With the war effort severely unfavorable, they did not have time for funding to train him. He was needed on the ground and joined the aircraft maintenance. He only grew more and more bitter as time progressed, but he would have to settle. Eventually, Eventually, currently at the base, he was inevitably overrun by aliens. XCOM was sent in to recover survivors and any materials they could salvage. As one of the few, he survived, and they pulled him out of, I guess, the wreckage. He met Firebrand on board and jokingly asked her if he had any slots open to fly the Adventure. She told him if he played his cards right and survived long enough, she would put in a good word. She even gave him one of her extra pilot helmets as a gesture of goodwill. And that's all he needed to hear. Within the Air Force, all but finished his services. With the Air Force all but finished, he offered his services to XCOM, and they told him he could always have another experienced soldier. He repurposed his helmets for underground combat and was ready to prove his worth for the alien threat. If he does well enough, I have a feeling that the sky is the limit. Side note, the crew crudely refers to him as Raytail for the loss of his wings, just like the extinct bird that would evolve flightlessness as they settled on lone islands. Okay, all right, I didn't know that fact. But this guy here is a pilot, and he wishes he could fly. The Adventure. No, we didn't cover him yet. I would have remembered that bio. And then we're back to Metalmoth. So this is the first guy we did start with, the Proxian Soldier. So that is everybody on the roster, on the dossier. And like I said, I've made notes on people. I'm going to keep referring back to them during the campaign because I think that would be cool. And then any new people we get, of course, we'll read their bios and we'll go from there. Okay, so if you enjoyed getting to meet the team of XCOM folks, make sure you like and subscribe to this video, and in the next video, it's mission. Promise. Okay, let's put a cut in here. And until next time, everybody, thanks for watching. This is Old Guy Plays 1969. Till next time, bye-bye.